For back-to-back episodes, we actually have some trivia. What have you got for me today?
Well, it's a multiple choice regarding our NB85 series. How many days did it take for Larry Bird to break Kevin McHale's scoring record of 56 points in the 84-85 NBA season? Was it A, 7 days?
Yeah.
Was it B, 9 days?
Right.
Or C, I won't even bother because you're holding up 9 fingers and have answered the question. Well done. It was 9 days.
Ah, fantastic.
I always like to say that Michael got to play with me for a year at North Carolina. I think it really helped him.
Spectacular player from the beginning.
You can see right away Jordan was going to be a big-time scorer.
And showed what an impact he was going to have on the league.
This is NB86, celebrating the 30-year anniversary of Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls' 1986 NBA season. And now your hosts, Adam Ryan and Aaron Steen.
Welcome back to another episode of NB86. We're up to episode 7 of the series. Aaron, as always, mate, welcome and thanks for joining me.
Thanks, mate. Looking forward to doing my best Tony Barber or Glenn Ridge impersonation in a moment.
Wow, Sale of the Century reference. Australian listeners will love that one, mate. Welcome back if you're a regular listener to the show. And if you're new to the show, thanks for joining us. For back-to-back episodes, we actually have some trivia. What have you got for me today?
Well, it's a multiple choice. Again, with my last trivia question, I've gone original and used the same line of questioning regarding our NB85 series. How many days did it take for Larry Bird to break Kevin McHale's scoring record of 56 points in the 84-85 NBA season? Was it A, 7 days?
Yeah.
Was it B, 9 days?
Right.
Or C, I won't even bother because you're holding up 9 fingers and have answered the question. Well done. It was 9 days.
Ah, fantastic. I do actually remember my notes mostly. There's some things I've typed from last series which I've completely forgotten, but that one I was pretty confident in. 9 days later, breaks the record.
For any future trivia questions that I bring up to you, if you want to, as you say, swat up on them, pretty much all you need to do is read all of your notes from the NB85 series.
I recently calculated how many hours that the NB85 series went for. Over the 30 episodes, it totaled somewhere nearing 22 hours in duration. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm pretty sure it's a good thing because there's still plenty of people who are digging back into the NB85 archives and listening to episodes on a daily basis.
Just think about a marathon runner that runs a marathon and all the pain and suffering and discomfort that they have to go through. That would be a very similar kind of marathon if you were to listen to it for 22 hours straight.
I think they wouldn't even do that to the worst criminals in the world.
Yeah, torture. Waterboarding and NB85.
I don't know where to go to from there. However, you can access that NB85 series in allairness.com/NB85. That'll take you to the episode listings on my website.
The only series of its kind.
I should have remembered that because I shamelessly self-promoted it 175 times in the last 4 months with that one graphic. Moving on. Your trivia question, mate. Then maybe let me know if you'd like multiple choice. In the 1985-86 NBA season that we're covering right now, who was the second leading scorer for your Atlanta Hawks? Would you like some multiple choice?
Multiple choice for the 86 season. Yeah, I will take a multiple choice.
Okay.
Because initially, the first 3 guesses I'd have would be Willis, Rivers, or Webb.
We'll see how we go, mate. Here's the options. Well, we know who number 1 was, of course. Trey Rollins. No, here's your choices, mate. You've got Kevin Willis, Glenn Doc Rivers, or Randy Whitman.
Geez, that's a good one. I'd probably have to go with Glenn Doc Rivers out of those 3 guys.
Is that your final answer?
That's my final answer.
Randy Whitman.
Really?
Yes. Randy Whitman averaged 12.9 points a game in 85-86.
12.9, and he was the
second leading scorer.
Behind Dominique's NBA league leading 30.3 points per game.
You've nailed the points per game for Nick. Randy Whitman was second with 12.9 points a game, closely followed by Kevin Willis at 12.3 and Doc Rivers 11.5.
I'd love to see how many times a gap that big in between the number 1 and number 2 guys has happened in NBA history, because that's a whopper.
Quite. Billy Pultz It's a whopper.
It's a whopper pulse.
You've always had your finger on the pulse.
Mm.
Yeah, that's a big disparity, isn't it? 30.3 down to 12.9. 86, 87 and 88, he averaged 10 points a game or better. So 12.9 was his career high and probably a banner year. But yeah, he played 81 games for the Hawks and had 12.9 points a game. Would not have actually known that had I not had access to the great basketballreference.com.
Agreed.
NBA News, Notes and Quotes. December 24th, 1985, through January 7th, 1986.
On December 25th, otherwise known as Christmas Day.
It is in most countries around the world.
Mm-hmm. The previous week at the Chicago Stadium, Michael Jordan sat on the bench draining 30-footers after taking a bet from Bulls PR director Tim Hallam. MJ took the $10 win from Hallam and gave it to the Ball Boys to split as he swished the second of 3 attempts while seated on the bench.
That's a good effort. I think in Come Fly With Me, we see some footage of Jordan sitting on the bench taking some shots.
It might be a bit of a long shot. I'd love to know if that was that footage.
It would have been a long shot, probably 30 foot.
Yeah, 30-footer.
Yeah.
Yeah. MJ's unexpected winter vacation was expected to last until the middle of January, if not longer, wrote Bob Sakamoto. Tim Hallam said that MJ's blessed. He could walk on water before the injury and now just gets his feet a little wet.
That's a good quote.
Jordan immediately dismissed talk of him not returning to what he was before the injury as a player after Knicks center and future Bull Bill Cartwright experienced issues from a broken foot for years after the injury.
Former podcast guest as well, Bill Cartwright. Shameless self-promotion has already begun. Episode 43 of the show, courtesy of your list that you sent me. Thank you. In New York, Patrick Ewing's best game as a pro could not have come at a better time. His Knicks were in deep trouble. Speaking of water, they were down 58-33 with less than 6 minutes remaining in the third. Entering the fourth, Patrick had just 8 points. He scored 18 last quarter points, including 12 of his team's final 14. Tied at the end of regulation, Ewing was ably assisted by Rory Sparrow, Gerald Wilkins, and an expertly timed three-pointer from sharpshooter and future Chicago Bull, Trent Tucker, with 11 seconds left in overtime. The Knicks put Boston away in the second overtime period. The final score was 113-104. Ewing led New York with 32 points and 11 boards, and for the 21-7 Celtics, Kevin McHale, Robert the Chief Parrish, and Larry Bird all had 20-plus points. This victory was the Knicks' second 3-game win streak of the season, and they'd head to Chicago the very next day, and we'll get to that shortly.
Just think about that for a second. The Knicks had 33 points in 30 minutes of play.
Incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
The other game on the Christmas Day slate, the LA Clippers ventured to Memorial Coliseum in Portland to take on the Trailblazers. Marcus Johnson's monster performance, and this is a great stat line, 31 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 blocks, was not enough, as his Clippers fell 121-107. Portland outscored LA 41-22 in the second quarter, and the rest is history. Kiki Vandeweghe led the Blazers with 26 points, and Sam Bowie, in just 29 minutes, contributed 12 points, 11 rebounds, and 5 assists in one of the best games of his 38 regular season appearances during the 86 season. And sadly, PA announcer and voice of the Philadelphia 76ers, Dave Zinkoff, died on this day aged 75. The last game that he worked was November the 13th. His career with Philadelphia commenced in 1946. We'll mention a fitting show of respect that features 76ers great Julius Erving later in this episode.
In other NBA news on this day, Jamal Wilkes announced his retirement from the NBA on this day. I just said on this day twice. So in case you missed it, it was on this day. Wilkes said his move from the LA Lakers to the LA Clippers was like going from a Rolls Royce to a 62 Chevy.
Oh, nice comparison.
Wilkes was released by the Lakers after the 84-85 season and was picked up by the Clippers. He said he was grateful for not having to move his family and stay in a town that had shown him a lot of love over the years, but playing for the Clippers was at the other end of the Philadelphia spectrum.
I'm not sure if he actually said the word Philadelphia.
Yeah, I may have added that in.
Oh, I like it, though.
On the following day, Bob Sakamoto's article in the Tribune wrote, Bulls get visit from Nick's St. Patrick. On the day after Christmas, St. Nick just had his day, and the Bulls hope Thursday night won't be St. Patrick's night.
Nice.
Bob wrote that Ewing had been a one-man revival show in the Big Apple. Occasional help from the likes of NB85 favourite Pat Cummings, Lewis Orr, and future Bull Trent Tucker.
Trent Tucker? No, sorry. Bad joke.
Had assisted the NBA's newest super rookie, but with injuries to star Bernard King and centre Bill Cartwright, Patrick has been left to his own devices. The soft-spoken Georgetown Hoya had shrugged off criticism from legend Will Chamberlain, who said that Patrick was too combative in game after several ejections for fighting. Mounts and Allbeck reiterated that the Bulls had been stressing defense recently and keeping teams to below 110 points in their previous 7 games. The Knicks were, at this point, the lowest scoring team in the NBA in 29 years at just 95 points per game.
That is low, even for 1980 standards. Now, that day, New York at Chicago in front of 12,362 fans saw the Knicks win 113-96, and the Bulls dropped to 11-21. For Chicago, George Gervin had a great game, 30 points. Orlando Woolridge, 21. Kyle Macy, 12 points and 9 assists. And Charles Oakley, 12 boards. And for the Knicks, the aforementioned Pat Cummings, 22 points and 10 rebounds. Future Bull Trent Tucker, 17 points. And Bob Thornton, 1 point and 3 rebounds. So when I saw that name, I went to basketballreference.com, as you do.
Yes.
This was Thornton's rookie season. He played 71 games and played more than 280 in his career. His high score was 17 points. And how's this for a stat, mate? He played from 86 through to 1992. Then he had 3 years in Italy before returning for one more tilt in the NBA for 7 games with the Washington Bullets in 1996.
I had no idea that he'd come back. I don't recall him as a player on court so much, but more on NBA hoops, trading cards. I remember Bob Thornton, especially when he played with the other 76ers. It must have been in 1990, I think it was. But yeah, I had no idea that he came back.
He might have had a 3-year break so he could continue his burgeoning acting career. Bob Thornton. Let's move straight on. Former Bull Steve Johnson dropped 26 points on the visiting LA Lakers as San Antonio belted LA 109-91. The Spurs moved to 18-12, whilst the Lakers dropped just their 4th game of the year, 24-4. They were at that stage. Houston at home defeated Utah by 7 points, 106-99. 2 Rockets were on fire. Akeem had 21 points, 15 rebounds, and a then career high 9 blocks. His all-time best was 12 in the 87 and 89 seasons. Not to be outdone, Ralph Sampson grabbed 25 caroms. Not sure why I put caroms there, but obviously I wanted to use it.
It applies.
Yeah. Former podcast guest and friend of the show, Mark Eaton, episode 49, had a great game for the Jazz. He notched up 10 points, 11 rebounds, and 7 blocks. Now, his career high, speaking of blocks, was 14 back in the 85 season, and in 1989 he also had that tally as well. Utah's scoring was led by the ever-reliable Adrian Dantley with 35 points, and the mailman posted 26 points and 15 boards. Sacramento visited the Golden State Warriors and lost 131-121. It was a high-scoring affair. For the Warriors, Purvis scored 41, 3 short of his 1986 season high of 44, some 16 days hence. Joe Barry Carroll had 30 points and 13 rebounds, and for the Kings, Reggie Theus had 30 points and was also in the giving mood, handing out 11 assists. Eddie Johnson, episode 41, also had 30 points. Now, I mentioned this a little bit earlier. I'll elaborate a bit further. Minus Dr. J, the 76ers disposed of the hometown LA Clippers 117-108. Irving remained in Philadelphia to attend the funeral of Dave Zinkoff, which I think is a very classy act from the Doctor. And from the book titled Tales from the Philadelphia 76ers Locker Room, written by Pat Williams, probably most famously known as the Orlando Magic GM, I guess you could say, and Gordon Jones, there was a heading titled A Voice Stilled. Now, I won't read all of it, but just a couple of quick things. Dr. J had given the eulogy at the funeral of Dave Zinkoff. As we said, he was 75, and he died on Christmas Day, 1985. Now, here's what Irving went on to say. Of all the qualities that I can think of that he possessed, the most natural to him was not his voice or his mastery of a phrase. To me, it was his servicing of friendships. Dave Zinkoff was my grandfather, father, brother, and son rolled into one giving, sharing, loving person who cannot and will not be replaced, ever. I long for the day when I can be a fraction of the friend that Zink was.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty incredible words there from Dr. J.
Have you read that book?
No, I just came across this in a Google search after I tried to find out some more details about Dave Zinkoff, who of course is one of the most famous PA announcers, probably in history of sports, basically, you'd have to say.
Yeah, and you can hear my Dave Zinkoff impersonation in NB85- I have no idea.
One of the more popular episodes.
On December 27, what was supposed to be MJ's cast party turned out to be a sad state of affairs against the Ewing-less Knicks. MJ's cast came off earlier in the day, and the Bulls' shooting touch went off at the same time, wrote Bob Sakamoto. Bulls fans booed when told that Patrick Ewing had stayed in New York to rest a sprained knee and didn't stop booing until the final siren in a game in which the Bulls gave up 38 points in the first term.
Crazy.
Post-game, Stanley Allback said he shouldn't have been so nice to his players and giving them Christmas Day off. 38% shooting for the Bulls was only offset by 11 for 20 shooting from Iceman in his 30-point game. Q went a hideous 1 for 13 from the field, and Orlando just 7 for 18. Matched up against 6'9" backup center Ken the Staircase Bannister, Oldham and Causey managed just 8 points between them. General manager Jerry Krause held a 20-minute closed-door meeting after the game.
So Krause was chatting for 20 minutes with some closed doors. That's strange. Now, Jordan's actual return, it should be said as well, mate, was March 15th, 1986 versus Milwaukee. Now, you just mentioned there that in that 27th of December article, we're talking about when was a possible return?
The regular date that was mentioned was February 1st.
February 1st. Just for what it's worth, Jordan's actual return was quite later than that. Anyhow, mate, I've derailed you enough there. Just continue on if you like.
On the 28th, Bulls owner Jerry Reinsdorf attended practice at the multiplex, where I was able to get a few shots up whilst I was in Chicago last year, for the first time after the loss to the Knicks, perplexed at his team's 11-21 start to the season. He planned to start attending more practices and spending more time with the head coach after his other team, the White Sox, had kept him to only watching Bulls games on Sports Vision.
I'll never tire of your references to going to the multiplex and having some shots in 2015, mate. Great stuff.
Just trying to make myself feel better about you having actually been to Chicago Stadium, mate.
Oh, that's right. I have too. Yeah. Thanks for reminding me of that. Now, on the night of the 28th, Indiana at Chicago in front of a very lowly crowd, 7,124, saw the Chicago Bulls defeat Indiana 108-104. Now, the Bulls improved to 12-21. For Chicago, Woolridge had a great game with 31 points. Sidney Green, still chowing down on that spinach, it seems, had 23 points and 15 rebounds. And Dave Corzine, 12 points and 10 boards. For Indiana, Wayman Tisdale had a very good game, 26 points and 12 rebounds. And 86 was his rookie year, and he averaged 14.7 points and 7.2 boards a game. So, very good effort there from Tisdale.
1984 gold medalist.
Yeah, that's right. Covered in some depth as well in the first few episodes of NB85, dare I say. Of course, Ewing would win the Rookie of the Year, but very solid effort there very solid hat tip there to Lee Ellis. Very solid effort there from Wayman Tisdale for a rookie season. And Steve the Swinger Stepanovic, mate, 17 points and 12 rebounds.
If you hadn't have dropped the Swinger in then, I was going to be very upset.
I saw his name, so I thought I might as well throw it out there. Now, at the buzzer, former podcast guest Ricky Pierce, episode 28. Wow, that's about 3 or 4 shameless self-promotions already. Tipped in an Alton Lister miss to give Milwaukee a 114-112 overtime win on the road in Cleveland. For the Bucks, Sid Moncrief was outstanding with 35 points, 5 rebounds and 5 assists. John Bagley's 18-point, 11 rebound and 13 assist effort almost dragged the Cavs over the line, but not quite.
And may I say, a great effort by the Cavs big men to allow the 6'4" Ricky Pierce to tip in the offensive rebound.
Yeah, that's right. In New York, Atlanta easily disposed of the Knicks 100-80. New York rookie Patrick Ewing missed his second straight game with a jammed knee. Neek was unconscious, dropping 36 points and 17 rebounds as well. Do you drop 17 rebounds? I'm not sure. With John Concack grabbing a career-high 20 boards.
Just an effort by Neek when he's out cold.
That's a fantastic effort, given he was actually unconscious. Anyhow, Adrian Dantley, he was a scoring machine in the 1980s. I won't get tired of saying that either. 39-point performance was overshadowed in his team's 110-108 home loss to Boston. Danny Ainge hit the would-be game-winning field goal late. The 22-7 Celtics were led by Larry Bird and Kevin McHale, each scoring 24 points.
On the 29th, this edition of the Tribune included a fantasy draft held by notable sports writers in Chicago to select Chicago's all-time dream team across its 5 major sports teams.
Interesting.
Included was a ballot for fans to fill out with players across all positions for the Bulls, Cubs, Bears, White Sox, and Blackhawks for fans to vote for their own inclusions into the team. The Bulls representatives were Jordan, Sloan, Van Leer, Theus, Boozer, Love, Walker, Woolridge, Bullwinkle, Gilmore, and coaches Kirby Motter, and for a second time, Jerry Sloan.
He's someone to appear on the ballot twice. Carlos Boozer, very lucky to get in that list.
Extraordinary.
It is extraordinary. Social media was not even a figment of anyone's imagination back at this stage, so I love how they had to just fill out a ballot in the newspaper and mail it in.
I made a purchase on eBay a few years ago of a 1985 NBA All-Star ballot, one of the original ballots that were available in Foot Lockers, I think it was, at the time.
I think you've showed me that once before too. It's a very cool piece of memorabilia.
You manually had to fill out the ballot and send it back in. Very cool.
Yeah. The only game that was played on December 29 saw the visiting Golden State Warriors shock the Lakers 130-122. The 12-22 Warriors were led by Joe Barry Carroll's 30 points. Chris Mullin dropped 24, and for the 25-5 Lakers, Magic Johnson had 30 points and 12 assists, and Byron Scott chimed in with 29 points.
The Sack wrote that the Bulls were going for 2 in a row for the umpteenth time after not having won 2 in a row since they started the season with 3 straight wins. When asked why the Bulls aren't winning, guard Kyle Macy said the Bulls were relying too much on the crowd to give them the extra kick that they needed. And Dave Corzine pointed to a lack of chemistry even on the practice court. He said he has been waiting for 4 years for the team to come around.
Wow.
Luckily, he's been a pretty patient guy, wrote Bob. He also said the February 1 return of Michael Jordan will help alleviate some of these problems.
In the December 30 Chicago Tribune, in the news, notes and nonsense, I noted this little piece of magic here, mate. Have a listen to this. A Christmas tree decorated by basketball star Nancy Lieberman brought $5,000 at an auction to benefit the New York Special Olympics. Some of the ornaments Lieberman draped from the branches were Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's goggles, Mark Aguirre's sneakers, jerseys worn by Patrick Ewing and Michael Jordan, and greeting cards from National Basketball Association legends Elgin Baylor, Wilt Chamberlain, Bob Cousy, John Havlicek, and George Mikan.
How good is that? $5,000. Imagine what that will be worth now.
Exactly. Incredible. Some of these items. I had to read it twice when I first saw it. $5,000 is a fantastic effort. It would have gone for more, but apparently Havlicek stole the baubles. Well, I'm not even sure if that's going to make the episode, but we'll move on. In my mind, that was a great joke. Didn't quite play out that well. Chicago at Cleveland, mate, in front of 11,086 fans, saw the Bulls win 121-117, and the Bulls improved to 13-21. George Gervin continued his great form with 31 points. Sidney Green had 20 points, 11 rebounds and 8 assists, almost a triple-double for Popeye. That's a great effort. And Quentin Daly, 19 points and 9 rebounds. For Cleveland, Will B. Free had 29 points, Roy Hinson, 19 points and 10 boards, John Bagley, 15 points and 18 assists, and Mel Turpin, 10 points and 10 rebounds.
There goes the dinner bell.
Yes, Mel. Mm-hmm.
The win marked the first time in 31 games that Chicago had won 2 straight, all thanks to the Bulls' new motion offense, said Dave Corzine. The much shorter Cleveland guards were taken advantage of all game as the 6'8 Gervin posted them up, or the burly Quinton Daly outmuscled them for 19 points, 5 assists, and 9 rebounds.
Herb Williams notched up the third highest scoring game of his professional career, netting 38 points in his Pacers' 17-point road win at Washington. The Bullets were led by 11-year veteran Cliff Robinson and his 27 points. In the Bucks' 121-110 victory over Detroit, future Bull Craig Hodges severely dislocated the index finger on his right hand. He'd missed more than a month's worth of games before returning early February 1986. And at Denver, Alex English dropped 42 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists, and 3 steals as His Nuggets held off Houston 125-122. Backup center Danny Shays had 21 points. The visiting Boston Celtics made light work of the LA Clippers 125-103. Kevin McHale had 22 points and 18 rebounds, whilst Larry Legend chimed in with 21 points, and the Celtics moved to 23-7. And San Antonio's 5-game win streak was snapped as the hometown Portland Trailblazers won 125-110. Clyde the Glide had an absolute ripper, 23 points, 15 rebounds and 11 assists. Sweet Bells, aka Michael Thompson, had 30 points and 9 rebounds, and Sam Bowie had 21 points, 11 boards and 6 assists. And for the Spurs, Artis Gilmore had 30 points and 11 rebounds, and Mike Mitchell 29 points. On December 31, mate, there were no games played, and quickly the player of the month for December was Alvin Robertson from San Antonio Spurs, who averaged 20.9 points, 6.9 rebounds, 5.8 assists, and 3.9 steals a game as his Spurs went 10-5. So great numbers there from Alvin Robertson, aka Sergeant SWAT, I'm pretty sure, from Dazzling Dunks and Basketball Bloopers.
And I think one of the most underrated guys from the 80s and early 90s.
Definitely was, mate. He could play all facets of the game. In January 1986, mate, on the 1st, otherwise known as New Year's Day, the Chicago Tribune reported that New Jersey Nets Michael Ray Richardson, who had been AWOL the previous 4 days, admitted he was suffering from a drug-related problem. He succumbed to the NBA for treatment. Reports indicated he'd be indefinitely suspended without pay, and the Nets would foot the bill for treatment under the league's drug policy. And for NBA fans, New Year's Day was celebrated in style, though there was just one game on the slate. It was an overtime barn burner. Philadelphia at Portland prevailed 121-119. Moses Malone had 35 points and 14 rebounds, and Charles Barkley went for 31 points and 13 rebounds. Kiki Vandeweghe had 30 points for the Blazers, and Drexler 23 points, 7 rebounds, 12 assists and 4 steals. So good stuff there from the Glide. On the 2nd, in the Tribune's News, Notes and Nonsense column, I gleaned this magnificent tidbit. Cleveland guard World B. Free buys 30 tickets for each home game and gives them to underprivileged children who sit in a corner of Richfield Coliseum called World's World.
That's cool.
That is cool. Same day, mate, in the briefs section, a story about Dr. Duncanstein Darrell Griffith, a.k.a. the Golden Griff. He broke his foot in a pickup game before the season had started, and he hadn't played since. Reports suggested that he would miss the entire 86 campaign. In fact, he did miss the 86 season altogether, and he was aged just 27 at the time. However, continued his career with the Jazz until he would retire after the 1991 NBA season. On the 2nd of January, mate, Detroit at Chicago, in front of 13,247, saw the Bulls win 131-122, so quite a high-scoring game there. And Chicago moved to 14-21 and celebrated the first 3-game win streak since Jordan's injury. For the Bulls, Daly and Woolridge had 26 points, George Gervin 22, Sidney Green 19 points, 10 rebounds and 5 assists, and Davey Corzine, never called him Davey before, probably will never call him Davey again, 9 points and 13 rebounds. For Detroit, Isaiah Thomas 29 points and 8 assists, Kelly Tripucka, love a good Kelly Tripucka mention, 25 points, 5 rebounds and 6 assists, and Bill Laimbeer 24 points and 9 boards.
Davy Corzine, no relation to Davy Crockett. Those in attendance feasted on pure entertainment for 2 hours and 8 minutes and then redeemed their ticket stubs for free pizzas.
They feasted. I like it.
Pizza Hut gave everyone free pizza every time the Bulls scored more than 120 points in a game in the 85-86 season. George Gervin started out with 17 first-quarter points, and Q put on one of his patented fourth-quarter shows with 14 points in the final 7:09 of the game.
Wow.
The players were all Rocky Mountain High on the Bulls' new motion offense, which had resulted in their first 3-game win streak since the first 3 games of the season. A 50-27 rebounding edge to the Bulls was also accompanied by the ejection of Kyle Macy late in the first half after an entanglement with the Pistons' Tony Campbell.
Wow. Top Cat would have been a bit more muscly and burlesque, I would have thought, than burlesque. I don't even know if that's the right use of the word.
Burlesque.
In fact, I don't think he was the burlesque.
Burlesque.
Apparently you put on a dress and...
You put on a great show.
Goodness me. That probably won't make the episode. In fact, I'm sure it won't. Burlesque. Apologies to Tony Campbell if you're listening. And Kyle Macy, for that matter.
Kyle.
In the Washington Bullets away win at New York, the three leading scorers, Jeff Malone with 37, Gus Williams with 32, and Cliff Robinson 28, they accounted for 97 of the team's 115 points, defeating the Knicks by 6. New York was led by Gerald Wilkins and his 19 points. Ewing, in his first game back since Christmas Day, scored 11 points in the loss. Now, whilst it was his first game back since Christmas Day, he did attend the Tony Campbell burlesque performance. Boston dominated hometown Indiana, winning 122-104. The Celtics' record moved to 24-7. Dennis Johnson scored 29 points, and teammate Larry Bird casually dropped 27 points, 13 rebounds, 8 assists, and 4 steals. The 9-22 Pacers were led by 1984 Olympian Vern Fleming and Wayman Tisdale's 18 points apiece. Actually, they were both 1984 Olympians, I should say.
Gold medalists.
On the 3rd of January, mate, the Ailing New York fired its former star, then Director of Basketball Operations Dave DeBuscher, replacing him with Scotty Sterling, who was the then NBA Vice President of Operations.
Yes.
Yes. I think he probably was saying the opposite of yes, let's be honest.
No.
In Atlanta, the Pistons failed to fire on all cylinders, dropping a 111-101 decision versus the Hawks. This was Detroit's 10th loss in its previous 11 games. Dominique had 32 points and 10 rebounds. Kalijapuka led the Pistons with 26 points, and Lambier had 22 points and nabbed 17 rebounds. At home, the Celtics had great scoring input from Bird, Johnson and McHale, 76 points combined. 25-7 Boston won the game 129-117 against the New Jersey Nets. And on the 4th of January, Atlanta at Chicago in front of another pretty ordinary crowd, 8,826, saw the Hawks come in and take the win 111-100. The Bulls were 14-22 at that time. For the Bulls, Woolridge had 21 points, Sidney Green 15 points and 10 boards, Jawan Oldham had 7 points, 12 rebounds and 4 blocks. And for Atlanta, Dominique 27 points and 4 steals. John Koncak had 14 points and 7 rebounds.
The Atlanta Hawks had an answer to the Bulls' 3-game win streak. His name was Dominique. The emergence of Wilkins from slam dunk king to complete player, to be mentioned alongside the likes of Magic and Bird, had the Hawks second in the Central at this point of the season. Doc Rivers attributed a pre-season of him staying on Dominique's case in practice to be one of the driving forces to Nick becoming an all-star caliber player in 85-86. Rivers said if Wilkins was 30 feet away from the basket, he wouldn't pass to him. But if he was under the basket, he'd get it to him every time and would even start yelling at him if he took a bad shot. A preseason team meeting resulted in the Hawks trying to run other teams off the court with their younger legs in 1986.
Good stuff there from Doc Rivers. Interesting to note, mate, in Bob Sakamoto's NBA Notebook column in that day's Chicago Tribune, there were actually rumblings of Chuck Daly's possible firing as Detroit coach. Incredible, in hindsight really, to think that he could have been given the axe before the Pistons even entered the top echelon of the Eastern Conference, won 2 NBA titles, to then be topped off with Chuck Daly named Dream Team coach in 1992 at the Olympics. On the 5th of January, mate, technically there were only 2 games played on this date, and I'll get to more of that in a moment. Both were blowouts. Purvis Short's 36 points were a game high in his Warriors road loss to the Portland Trailblazers 136-120. The other game had the visiting Washington Bullets falling by 30 to the juggernaut that was the LA Lakers 118-88. Rookie AC Green had 20 points and 10 rebounds off the bench for LA, whilst the Magic Man dialed up 17 assists.
Jawan Oldham was excused by the Bulls on the 6th of January to return home to Seattle to be with his older brother Bruce, who was suffering from brain cancer. Oldham, who was one of 11 children, was told that his 40-year-old brother only had a matter of 3 or 4 days to live.
Wow, I had no idea about that. That's very confronting.
In other news, Michael Jordan's famous left foot was due to be examined again this week, with Mark File expecting MJ to be back on court on February 1st at the latest. And whilst in Chicago filming a movie, actors Billy Crystal and Gregory Hines frequented Bulls games at Chicago Stadium. Whenever Orlando saw Crystal at a game, he would give the actor his best Billy Crystal impersonation. I, however, will not.
I was just almost expecting a Billy Crystal rendition there, but it would have been some good comic relief. On the night of January 5, mate, for the first time in NBA history, a game was postponed in progress. Hat tip there to the Chicago Tribune. The leaky roof atop the Seattle Center Coliseum led to wet patches on the court, making play too dangerous. So the game was called off early in the second quarter, with the visiting Suns of Phoenix ahead 35-24. NBA Commissioner David Stern then ruled the game would resume the following day, January 6, 1986, with the score Phoenix 35, Seattle 24, and 10 minutes and 48 seconds were left in the second quarter. So that was pretty cool to note. The Suns prevailed 114-97. Phoenix's high man was Larry Nance with 27 points. James Edwards, future Bull, aka Buddha, had 25 points. And the X-Man was the only Sonics player with 20-plus points. He racked up 24 in his team's 17-point loss. Two other games occurred on January the 6th. Philadelphia won for the 9th time in 10 games, holding off San Antonio 108-102. Sacramento at home walloped the Washington Bullets. The Washington Bullets 106-87.
Hello to Chris Bosch, if you're listening.
Oh, jeez. Reggie Theus had 17 points and 16 assists. It was the 17th consecutive sellout at Arco Arena in front of 10,333. Fans chanted 3 in a row during the final minute. That was the Kings' first 3-game win streak of the 85-86 season.
On the following day, the Bulls' 12th man, Mike Smrek, could have been excused for tossing and turning in his sleep all night as he was about to start for the first time in his NBA career with regular starting center Jawan Oldham back home in Seattle. Stan Albeck wanted to keep Dave Corzine in his regular role off the bench, leaving the Bulls' 12th man, Smrek, pronounced wreck as in nervous wreck, wrote the sack. Albeck, with a laugh, said they were trying to knock the Chicago Bears off the front page of the paper with the controversial move.
That's a good little tidbit, this one.
The sack then wrote that he would likely start the game against Mike Jaminski and also encounter Chocolate Thunder during the game.
Welcome to the NBA, Mike Schmreck. In that said game, New Jersey Nets at Chicago, in front of just 7,716 fans, the Nets held on to win 110-105. The Bulls dropped to 14-23, and the Nets improved to 22-14. However, they actually ended the season 39-43. So the wheels certainly fell off towards the end of their season, or maybe the walls fell off because it was Coach Dave Wall. Chicago were led by George Gervin with 28 points, and Sidney Green had 18 rebounds. And for New Jersey, the aforementioned Darryl Dawkins had 24 points and 6 boards, and Otis Birdsong had 19 points and 9 assists.
24 points and several power dunks by Darryl Dawkins gave Mike Smrek a tough initiation in his first ever NBA start. Post-game, Smrek commented on how strong Dawkins was and that he, and I quote, had a good time with me, as Chocolate Thunder simply held Smrek off with one hand to get position for those numerous power dunks. Dawkins said that Smrek was big, strong, and worked hard, so he'll be all right, then followed that with, now I'm going to get me some ribs and I'll be all right.
Darryl Dawkins, always up for a quote.
George Gervin showed appreciation of Dawkins' game with this comment. He's just live. Ain't no Memorex when it comes to Double D. No, sir, he's live. Of course, I went straight to Wikipedia for an explanation of what Ice meant when he said this. And it turns out that Memorex entered the consumer media business in 1971 and started the ad campaign, first with its shattering glass advertisements, and then with a series of famous television commercials featuring Ella Fitzgerald. In the commercials, she would sing a note that shattered the glass while being recorded to a Memorex audio cassette. The tape was played back and the recording also broke the glass, asking, is it live or is it Memorex?
Wow.
This would become the company slogan, which was used in a series of advertisements released through the 1970s and 1980s.
There you go. That is some great information.
Yeah.
I'm glad you went and did some more research there, mate. Thanks for doing that. Always appreciate it. Now, in a gutty 4-point win at home, the Pistons held off the Boston Celtics 113-109. Isaiah Thomas lit up with 39 points and 13 assists for the Pistons, ending his team's 6-game losing skid and simultaneously snapping the 25-8 Celtics 4-game win streak. In possibly the greatest quote we'll pull from the 86 archives, Isaiah, talking about the victory, said, "At this point, it didn't matter if we beat the Little Sisters of the Poor. We needed a win." Fair enough. The Celtics' Kevin McHale paced Boston with 29 points. Robert Parrish was ejected in the second quarter for throwing a punch at Bill Laimbeer.
What?
Yeah, who would have thought? Laimbeer would have aggravated somebody enough to want to punch. Larry Bird's would-be game-tying basket with just 7 seconds left got waved off due to an offensive foul that was called on Kevin McHale. Akeem Olajuwon's monster stat line of 26 points, 12 rebounds, and 11 blocks kept his 23-12 Houston Rockets unbeaten at home, defeating Golden State 124-115. Let's round the episode out, mate, with our players of the week for December 29. Your favourite, Dominique Wilkins of Atlanta, 35.5 points, 15.5 rebounds, and 3 assists a game. And the Hawks went 1-1 due to the Christmas break, of course. Not too many games were played at that period of time. And January 5, Clyde Drexler of Portland had 21.3 points, 9 rebounds, 9.3 assists, and 2.8 steals, guiding his Trailblazers to a 3-1 record. For the individual highs, points, it was Alex English with 42 in Denver's game versus Houston on the 30th of December. Rebounds, Ralph Sampson pulled down 25 boards versus Utah on the 26th of December. And the high assist man was Sleepy Floyd of Golden State with 18 at LA on the 29th of December. And he was matched by John Bagley of Cleveland versus Chicago on the 30th of December. Now, let's round it out with the NBA standings through January the 7th, 1986. The division leaders were in the Atlantic, Boston were 25-8. In the Central, Milwaukee were 25-12. In the Midwest, Houston was 23-12. And in the Pacific, specifically, the Lakers were 27-5. The Bulls were 14-23. They went 3-3 during this span of time, and the Indiana Pacers were the cellar dwellers of the league at 10-23. All right, mate, that rounds out another episode of the show. This is normally where I say, would you like to add anything? Of course you do add something. Thanks again, mate, for being part of the show. What would you like to add there, mate?
Tony Campbell ain't live. He's burlesque. Giddy up.
Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show and share my web address with your friends and colleagues, inallairness.com. Check out the podcast archive for plenty more episodes with high-profile guests. Follow me on Twitter at inallairness. Please add your like to the show's social hub, facebook.com/inallairness. Join me next time for another edition of the show. You know what this means? I'm going to have to include my stupidity of saying burlesque. You've stitched me up an absolute treat. Yeah, well played. Good job.
There's a pretty good strike rate of things that you say whilst we're recording that you then follow up with that probably won't make it to the final episode, and it usually does.
That's true, because then I listen back to it on reflection and I think, we can't be bloody perfect, can we? So,
dude, that ship sailed back at the start of NB86.
That's true. It did. That went a long time ago.